From Comedy Central's World News headquarters in New York, The Daily Show with Trevor Noah presents Filling the Swamp.
Recently, everyone has been talking about Scott Pruitt. He's the head of the Environmental Protection Agency and the love child of George W. Bush and a baked potato. Because you see, he's taken cabinet scandals to a whole new level.
President Trump is standing by EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt amid growing ethics scandals.
Let me put up a list of all the other things that have come up. There's the condo that he rented from energy lobbyists. He approved raises, apparently, for 2 aides' salaries after the White House had declined the request. He asked security to use sirens to cut through traffic. He reassigned staffers after they raised concerns about his spending. He requested a 24/7 security detail on personal trips that racked up tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay, hold up. Am I the only person who was shocked when they went to page 2? Like, when your scandal resume goes to the second page, you're done up. Like, that's so much scandal. Even Shonda Rhimes would be like, okay, this is unrealistic. Come on now. How much scandal for one person? I mean, this list is so long that the CNN anchor literally has to pause to catch her breath.
He spent $120,000 on a trip to the Vatican. He hired 12 more agents, costing at least $2 million per year for their salaries. He has all these flights in first class, totaling more than $100,000 in the first year of the administration. He has spent approximately $25,000 for a highly secure soundproof booth for Pruitt. He considered buying a $70,000 bulletproof desk replacement. You're okay with all that?
No, I am not okay with that. And neither should anyone else, right? The head of the EPA is spending taxpayer money like he just woke up in Chris Brown's body. Like, what is he doing? I mean, let's just look at some of the things that he did, right? He spent $120,000 to go high-five the Pope, right? He also said that he was afraid that people were listening to his phone conversations, so he spent $43,000 building a soundproof booth. Yeah, $43,000 on a soundproof booth. Never heard of whispering? and I'm sorry. Just listen to this one. Listen to this one. Scott Pruitt wanted to spend $75,000 on a bulletproof desk, which I don't even understand. What's the point of a bulletproof desk? It only works if your assassin doesn't know how to walk around stuff. It's like, die! Oh, where'd he go? Oh, man, this always happens. And also, why does the head of the EPA need this level of security anyway? Like, who's coming after him? A polar bear coming for revenge? Like, just like, hey, Pruitt, you drowned my wife! Oh, and surprise, surprise, Scott Pruitt only flies first class, but the reason he gave is pretty great.
Pruitt says he needs first class because of unpleasant interactions with passengers. What might be an example of that? According to the security office, an individual who approached Pruitt at an airport yelling, "Scott Pruitt, you're effing up the environment."
You're fixing up the environment? What does that mean? First of all, whoever said that to him in the airport is a hero, okay? And yeah, he is. And secondly, flying first class doesn't help you avoid angry passengers, right? Because now everyone on the plane is walking past you. Yeah, it's just gonna be like a line of people just be like, you're effing up the environment. You're effing up the environment. You drowned my wife. Ah, he's back! Why did I check my desk in? I should have kept it. And here's the thing, it's not just overspending. Everything Pruitt touches turns to shady. So shady, in fact, that even Fox News called him out.
President Trump said he would drain the swamp. Is draining the swamp renting an apartment from the wife of a Washington lobbyist?
I don't think that that's even remotely fair to ask that question.
Why did you go around the president and the White House and give pay raises to 2 staffers?
I did not. My staff did, and I found out about that yesterday, and I changed it.
So somebody being fired for that?
That should not have been done. And
So who did it?
It may be there would be some accountability.
A career person or a political person?
I'll have to. I don't know. I don't know.
You don't know? You run the agency. You don't know who did this?
I think this is something that needs to be corrected.
And
it was a
do you take
mistake.
responsibility?
It was a mistake by my team.
By your team. So do you take responsibility as the boss?
I'm fixing it.
It's that's all, folks. I bet Pruitt didn't expect those questions from that network. Like, he was probably like, my dude, we're on Fox. What the hell are you doing? Come on, you ask me how big Trump's dick is, I say enormous, and then we throw to a reverse mortgage commercial. Come on, buddy, what's wrong with you? Now, before you get excited, thinking Pruitt is going to be Trump's next weekly firing, remember one thing. Pruitt may be an over-entitled, self-dealing cabinet member, but he's really good at being bad for the environment.
Pruitt's saving grace may be that he's seen by the president and other White House officials as Mr. Trump's most effective cabinet secretary. He's started rolling back more than 24 Obama-era environmental regulations, including Mr. Obama's signature vehicle emission standards and Clean Power Plan. He also successfully advocated for the president to pull out of the Paris Climate Accord.
You know, it's amazing how the only thing you need for Trump to consider you effective is to just hit delete on anything Obama did. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if the next cabinet official is just a heavy pebble on a keyboard. That's all it's gonna be. Basically, with this whole scandal, Trump is like, folks, I know Scott Pruitt is super dirty, but thanks to his hard work on protecting the environment, soon we'll all be every bit as dirty as he is. Dr. Ben Carson, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development and real-life Zootopia sloth. When he took over at HUD, he had no relevant experience and one big goal: saving taxpayer money.
There is a tremendous amount of waste that's going on. We're finding that waste.
And if you think, oh, he's just saving money inside the department so he can spend more of it on the needy people that HUD serves, no. Frugality is a way of life for Ben Carson. Everyone's got to tighten their belts.
Earlier this month, Carson said public housing should not be, quote, too comfortable because it will make people say, I'll just stay here. They won't take care of me.
That is extreme. He wants to help people, but he still wants to keep them a little miserable. Yeah, just so they stay sharp. I wonder if he applied this philosophy to his brain surgery career. He's like, I only removed part of your tumor. I want to keep your brain on its toes. Also, I put some toes in there. Now, you may disagree with Ben Carson's view, but you have to admire a man who's so consistently committed to saving money. Like, you have to admire that, unless it's all bullshit.
A whistleblower at the Department of Housing and Urban Development is sounding off. An ex-staffer says she was demoted after refusing to spend more than the legal $5,000 limit to redecorate Secretary Ben Carson's new office.
She says her supervisor told her, quote, $5,000 will not even buy a decent chair.
Seriously, you can't get a good chair for less than $5,000, really? You realize you can get a sex chair off of Amazon that will literally sodomize you, and it's $49.99 with free shipping. That's real. You can go buy it. You can go buy it right now. And now, yesterday morning, when this news broke, Carson's people denied that he was out there buying gold-plated chairs. And that was cool for a few hours until this came out.
The New York Times reports HUD spent $31,000 on a new dining set for Secretary Ben Carson's office as cuts were being planned for programs to the homeless and elderly and poor. Ben Carson says he didn't know the table was purchased, but does not intend to return it.
You know, there are times when I doubt Ben Carson's blackness, but then something like this happens and I'm like, yeah, that's my dude. No, because that's how black people handle shit, right? You get something you're not supposed to, but you have it now. Like the guy from Verizon will call up like, I'm sorry about this, but you paid for an iPhone 6 and we sent you a 10 by mistake. And be like, sounds like you up. Bye-bye. So it turns out Mr. Saving Money over here wanted a chair for over $5,000 and then bought a dining set for $30,000. And now The Guardian reported that his department just spent over $160,000 on lounge furniture. Yeah, you realize for that amount of money, he could have built a poor person a decent house. Yeah, or 3 uncomfortable houses, whichever way you want to go. Like, Ben Carson is clearly doing some shady shit at his department, and it might also involve his wife and his son. I don't know. I do think this is probably why the secretary was so evasive last year when Congress was questioning him about his budgets.
Sir, you have indicated that there will be substantial cuts to the budget that HUD has. How much from housing vouchers, Mr. Carson?
rather than go through a quiz on all the numbers...
It's not a quiz, Mr. Carson. I have the time to ask you questions about things that you should have some knowledge of. Why would the Secretary of HUD not give the number, the amount that you're cutting from housing vouchers, Mr. Carson? How much, Mr. Carson?
Let's hear your number.
Mr. Carson, you're the witness testifying today. And if you want a moment to ask someone behind you, I would gladly accord you that moment.
I don't want to open the book and look at the numbers.
Why does he sound like a kid who's too scared to look under the bed? I don't want to look under the bed and see the monsters. You probably remember Ronnie Jackson. He's the White House physician who came out in January and said that Trump has the strength of a hippo and the body to match. You remember that? Right. Well, he said that Trump was incredibly healthy, which shocked everybody. Like, even God was in the front row, like, the Well, anyway, we didn't know much about him back then, and we didn't need to. But once Trump nominated Jackson for a cabinet position, people started digging into his past like he was dating Taylor Swift.
The White House physician nominated to lead the Department of Veterans Affairs provided a large supply of Percocet, a prescription opioid, to a White House military office staff member. A nurse on his staff said Dr. Jackson had written himself prescriptions.
The word is that on overseas trips in particular, that Admiral would go down the aisleway of the airplane and say, all right, who wants to go to sleep, and hand out the prescription
So you're
drugs
talking
like they were candy.
like an Ambien type.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He hands out prescriptions like candy. In fact, in the White House, they call him the Candyman.
Now look, to be fair, giving sleeping pills to staff on overseas flights is apparently kind of standard practice in many administrations, but distributing drugs like he was the stringer bell of Air Force One is just the beginning of Ronnie Jackson's story.
Sources telling CNN the White House doctor allegedly became intoxicated during multiple overseas trips on duty, including one in 2015, where sources say he banged on the hotel room door of a female employee in the middle of the night.
According to this memo, at a Secret Service going-away party, Jackson got drunk and wrecked a government vehicle.
Okay, this is just shocking. No, I can't believe that between Trump's two doctors, Ronnie Jackson is the one who might have a drinking problem. Brett Kavanaugh, Supreme Court nominee and renowned dad jeans collector. His confirmation hearings were already controversial and contentious, but this weekend, they reached a whole new level.
The Supreme Court nomination of Judge Brett Kavanaugh could be in jeopardy. A woman going public saying he sexually assaulted her when they were in high school. Christine Blasey Ford, a college professor in California, tells the Washington Post Kavanaugh and a friend were stumbling drunk at a party in the 1980s and allegedly forced her into a bedroom, pinned her to a bed, and groped her. She says he was trying to attack me and remove my clothing. She told the Post when she tried to scream, he put his hand over her mouth. Kavanaugh has categorically denied the accusation, saying in a statement, I did not do this back in high school or at any time.
Kavanaugh denies all of these allegations adamantly. He says he didn't sexually assault anyone. He says he doesn't remember that party. In fact, he says he was never even 17. He just went 15, 16, 18, just to be safe. Just to be safe.
This confirmation process has become a national disgrace. You have replaced advice and consent with search and destroy. The behavior of several of the Democratic members of this committee at my hearing a few weeks ago was an embarrassment. Last-minute smears designed to scare me. I wanted a hearing as soon as possible to clear my name. I demanded a hearing.
That's right, I demanded a hearing. You didn't give it to me. I demanded it. Anyway, if you'll put me on the court now, I'm prepared to put my emotions aside and rule fairly and soberly. Yeah, I think we can all agree I know how to handle my emotions. Yes, yes. I'm not gonna lie, the contrast was striking, because where Dr. Ford was more open to being questioned about her experience, this dude was behaving like the whole thing was just wasting his time.
It's an outrage that I was not allowed to come and immediately defend my name and say, I didn't do this, and give you all this evidence. I'm not even in D.C. on the weekends in the summer of 1982.
So you're saying there's never been a case where you drank so much that you didn't remember what happened the night before or part of what happened?
That's you're asking about, yeah, blackout. I don't know. Have you?
Could you answer the question, Judge? That's not happened. Is that your answer?
Yeah, and I'm curious if you have.
This guy was such an asshole. It looked like he was auditioning for a Snickers commercial. It's like, how dare you accuse me of sexual assault? I did it, yeah. One frustration many people have is that we could get to the bottom of Ford's allegations much more easily if the FBI was allowed to investigate this whole thing, right? But we're not learning anything from this. And after watching this exchange, I don't know if finding out the truth is on Kavanaugh's calendar.
Judge Kavanaugh turned down McGahn and to this committee and say, for the sake of my reputation, my family name, and to get to the bottom of the truth of this, I am not going to be an obstacle to an FBI investigation.
I welcome whatever the committee wants to do because I'm telling the truth.
I want to know what you want to do.
I'm telling the truth.
I want to know what you want to do, Judge.
I'm innocent. I'm innocent of this charge.
Then why would you resist that kind of investigation?
Sir, I wanted the hearing last week.
Judge Kavanaugh, will you support an FBI investigation right now?
I will do whatever the committee wants to.
Personally, do you think that's the best thing for us to do?
It was at that moment that Brett knew he had f***ed up. Now, Kavanaugh's confirmation process was a bitter partisan mess. And many people were wondering whether a confirmed Kavanaugh would make an impartial judge. Fortunately, the new justice believes bygones should be bygones.
My focus now is to be the best justice I can be. I take this office with gratitude and no bitterness. Every American can be assured that I will be an independent and impartial justice, devoted to equal justice under law.
Ooh, Democrats, you going to jail? No, because something tells me that this is a guy who doesn't forget, okay? Yeah, I mean, except for when it comes to his drinking, then he forgets everything. But I'm saying other things he does not forget. Everyone has been blaming President Trump for this week's border crisis, but it wasn't his idea alone. We can also thank Trump's senior policy advisor, Stephen Miller.
President Trump's senior policy advisor, Stephen Miller, has reportedly played a big role in the shaping of this administration's immigration policy.
Stephen Miller has been one of the main drivers pushing the president into enforcing the separation policy.
For more on this, we turn to senior political analyst Michael Costa, everybody. Stephen Miller is reportedly behind many of Donald Trump's most heartless immigration policies, the travel ban, canceling DACA, and now separating kids from their parents. How can he support causing so much pain?
How can he support causing so much pain? Calm down, you snowflakes, okay? What you gotta understand is riling up liberals is Stephen Miller's thing. Don't forget, this is a guy who ran for student government in high school on a platform to make the janitors work harder. He once jumped into the middle of a woman's track meet to prove that men are better athletes. Now, did he do that because nobody would have sex with him? No, he did it to trigger the libs. And he had a lot of time to plan it because nobody would have sex with him.
Wait. So you're saying that getting a reaction, an angry reaction, is what Stephen Miller wants?
Yeah, it's not only what he wants, it's what he thrives on. It's what gets him out of his casket in the morning. So don't even try, liberals. Calling Stephen Miller a light bulb covered in skin or what happens when enough cousins only nourishes him. And pointing out that he could rent his forehead on Airbnb would be falling right into his trap.
Wow, that's really upsetting, Michael. Yeah. But on the other hand, wouldn't calling him something like a pre-registered sex offender or Satan's life coach at least make people feel a bit better?
I mean, maybe, but it won't help. You're talking about a guy who puts his whole mouth on a public water fountain. You can't get to him. I mean, sure, you could Photoshop his face to look like a herpes sore, or slap it on a couple of bull testicles, or just turn that mouth into a urinal. You could do all of that, but he's just going to make that his profile pic on Tinder.
So if I understand what you're saying, it's really best not to engage at all with this guy who looks like how tuna smells.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. In fact, I brought a chart to help explain, okay? So now look, Here are people who think they can shame Stephen Miller into changing his mind, and here are people who think they can insult Stephen Miller into changing his mind. But what they don't get is that Stephen Miller, as my chart explains, he's actually above it all, okay? You see what I mean?
He looks like a huge dickhead.
What did I just say, man?
I'm still learning. Michael Costa, everyone.